Why don't you stand to your feet? Thank God for your prayer life and being able to talk with God. If you really know about the power of answered prayer, give God praise just for being a prayer hearing and prayer answering God. God just keeps on making a way for us. We're grateful for all of you who are sharing with us today. Thank God for those who are sharing by way of social media. Those of you in the sanctuary, let's thank God for those in social media, as well as those who are on the outside. You turn in your Bibles to Psalm 68. Psalm 68. We're also thankful for those who are joining us by way of the prayer line. Those who are outside, thank God for you this morning. Psalm 68 verse 19 says, "Blessed be the Lord, who daily loadeth us with benefits, even the God of our salvation. He that is our God is the God of our salvation. And unto God the Lord belong the issues from death. Blessed be the Lord, who daily loadeth us with benefits, even the God of our salvation. He that is our God is the God of our salvation. And unto God the Lord belongeth the issues from death." Thank you. You may be seated. And there's a story told that's true about John Griffith, who grew up with a dream in his heart. He had a large dream that he wanted to travel. He wanted to travel to faraway places to see exotic sights. That was his whole consuming passion of his life, but that dream crashed in 1929 in the stock market. The Great Depression settled like a funeral cloak upon the land. Oklahoma was his native state that was turned into a swirling dust bowl by the dry winds. His dreams were swept away with the wind, and so he packed up his wife, his tiny baby boy, and his few meager belongings, and got in his old car. He drove away to the edge of the Mississippi River, where he got a job caring for one of the huge railroad bridges that crosses that mighty river. It is there in 1937 that he decided that for the first time he was going to take his little 8-year-old son, little Greg, to work. He wanted him to see what his daddy did all day. The little boy had a lot of excitement. He clapped his hands with glee as he saw the huge bridge, how it would go up and down. He saw how mighty his father was. He watched with wonderment as the huge boats steamed down the Mississippi. 12 o'clock came, child of God, and his father put up the bridge. There were no trains that were due for a while, and he had a couple of 100 feet from the catwalk that he would go, that he could observe the river while he was taking a break. They sat down, they opened their lunch, they began to eat. The father began to tell him about some strange faraway lands, and some of these ships were going to visit, and time whirled by, and all of a sudden he hears this noise, and he's drawn instantly back to the reality of the shrieking of the train whistle. And Mr. Griffith, he quickly looked at his watch. He saw that it was time for the 107 ship to come through there, the Memphis Express, 400 passengers. And he started to rush across the bridge. In a couple of minutes, it was going to be tough for him to get back there. He panicked. He wanted to do something. He told his son, he said, "Son, I want you to stay right here. Don't move." He runs there to the bridge. He gets there in place, and suddenly he saw a sight that froze his blood, caused his heart to leap in his throat. His boy tried to follow him to the control room and had fallen into this great huge gearbox that had monstrous gears and operated this massive bridge. And now his left leg was caught between two main gears. Father knew that if he pushed the lever, the son would be crushed in the midst of 8 tons of grinding steel. His eyes are filled with tears of panic. Now he's at a place he don't know what to do. He saw the rope in the control room. He thought that he could rush down the ladder, tie off the rope, lower himself and get his son and return to the controls to lower the bridge. But no sooner had his mind done that, he says, "Now I'm out of time. I know I'm never going to make it." And suddenly he heard the whistle again, and now it's closer. What is he going to do? 400 people that are on this ship, and here this was his only son. He has a choice that he has to make. He knew what he had to do, so he buried his head in his arm and he pushed the gear forward. The great bridge slowly lowered into place. As the express train roared across, he lifted up his tear-smeared face and looked straight into the flashing windows of the train, and they flashed by one car after another, and he saw men reading their afternoon paper. The conductor in uniform looking in a large vest, pocket watch he had on. Ladies were sipping their tea. Children were pushing long spoons into their plates of ice cream. Nobody looked in the control room. Nobody looked at his tears. Nobody looked down into the great gearbox. And in a heart-wrenching agony, he beat against the window of the control room and said, "What's wrong with you people? Don't you care? I sacrificed my son for you. Don't anybody care? Nobody looked, nobody heard, nobody heeded." The train disappeared across the river, and he said, "Sometimes I just wish I had somebody to say thank you for the good I've done." Oh, child of God, when I read that story, it immediately drew me to Jesus Christ and everything that he has given for mankind. And some people are too mean to say, "God, I thank you." Hopefully you're not that person today that's sitting in this room that you want everything from God, but you won't even give a thank you to him. Oh, child of God, so many hearts are empty. People are all over the city have forgotten about God. They are complaining about COVID when it comes time to come to church. But they can go everywhere. Many are going to be out there at Edgewater in a few minutes. Many people are going to be in the stores. Many people populate places where they can make money and spend money. But yet when it comes to church, it is only at church that COVID becomes an issue. Oh, child of God, I thought about this passage all week long, and I said, wow, obviously we forgot that God has been doing it all the time. And that's what I want to share with you these few minutes, and I'll let you out of here to enjoy your day. Child of God, you've got to mature to the fact that you learn how to count what God gives you and learn that God has been blessing you and keeping you all along. Oh, child of God, you can't come to church for a few minutes, but you're afraid of COVID. COVID is everywhere. You don't know the workings of COVID, but God has been blocking some stuff. Oh, child of God, I want to preach to you today to suggest to you that we need to realize all that God gave up for us. And while there are those that can't come to church for 1 hour, and I'm not talking about those that got underlying sicknesses and illnesses. Yes, you should stay home and be careful, but there are some others who are not sick at all. Yeah, there are some others who are sick, but they go everywhere they want to go until it's time to come to God's house. But child of God, I want to teach you today, you better learn how to count the things that God is doing and not just say, God, I thank you with my lips, but God, I thank you with my life. You see, you mess around, child of God, and mess up your life with the calculations of your feelings and the calculations of your thoughts. And here it is, this psalmist decided that, hey, we are left to just find out that God is the author of the text. He wrote it, and it is here that we have the Lord marching to Zion. It is here that these stanzas swing between the ages of Egypt to Canaan. Here it is. He says we're on a forward march, but one of the things he wants them to understand is that though you're moving forward, you got to look forward. And somebody here, you're moving forward, but you're looking back. God is saying to you today that if you're going to move forward, you got to look forward. And here are some things that you need to understand. God has been doing some daily work for you every day. We read it in the text, and I'll read it one more time, explain it, and then we out of here. Listen at what the Bible says. Blessed be the Lord, who daily loadeth us with benefits, even the God of our salvation. He that is our God is the God of our salvation, and unto God the Lord belongs the issues from death. God says, in order to be a good worshiper, he says, don't worry about what I'm already working out. If it's daily, that means that every day God's been doing something. You'll appreciate this next Sunday. I'll say it again. Every day, even when it looks like there's inactivity on the part of heaven, God says, every day I've been loading you up. And so you're busy looking at the things that you can't count until you haven't spent time on the things that you should be counting. He says, I've been daily loading you up. If you're saved, God has been on detailed duty daily. I don't know if you grasp this. Daily. You don't have nobody in your life that's going to give you something every day. Sooner or later they're going to get tired of you begging and asking. But God says, I'm daily. You know, I don't know if you got this yet. Daily loads you up. A proverbial truck comes to your life daily to give you what you don't deserve, give you things you didn't ask for, give you blessings and miracles that you didn't work for. He says, I just daily load you up. Well, the first thing you need to understand, child of God, is that he is an indissoluble source. Listen to what he says. Blessed be the Lord. You got to settle in your life going forward. You got to settle the who and where your help comes from. Sometimes you can put so much energy in trying to get help from humans that's going to cost you, instead of getting help from God that's free. God says, I take care of you because you're in my custody. He says, I am your source. You got to get to the point, child of God, that God is your source. It's a dangerous path to traverse when the Father, his faithfulness and his favor becomes foreign and forgotten. Some of you have forgotten that God is your source. You're trying to close this year out with other sources as substitutes. God has to be the only source of your strength. And sometimes we look at the source and we tend to focus on what he hadn't done instead of what he's already doing. And in this lesson, the reason he's an indissoluble source is because you have to understand that sometimes, child of God, you can become so familiar with God that you don't feel you can be educated more about his existence. You don't feel he can execute anything else. Many of you have become so familiar with God, you've locked in at what God has already done, and you don't believe God can do more. You've locked in on what your mind tells you that he is, and you don't believe that he can be much more. And that's why in times of storms and struggles and situations, our faith gets weak, because we're so familiar with who we thought he was until we're not tapping into who he is. He says, I'm so much more. I want to do so much more for you. And then sometimes not only are you familiar, but then sometimes you've forgotten. You've forgotten. Look around your home. How can you forget? Look at your children. How can you forget? Look at your health record. How can you forget the source? Look at how many times checks have been short, bills have been high. How can you forget the source? Look how many times it's been a mental battle, but God has been stabilizing your mind and sedating your spirit. How can you forget the source? It's not time to take a substitute now. You've got to grab hold to a source that will never end. Don't you dare become so familiar with God that you think he can't do more. Your material things may end, but God never ends. Did you hear what I said? Listen what he said. He says, blessed be the Lord. The self-existent one, the one that never needs any help to be God. Listen, he is Jehovah God, the one that anything you ask him, he is that answer. He's the indissoluble source. You go through this holiday season and the rest of this year, these few months that we have left, knowing that before the struggle and in the struggle, even when it looks like it's an end to me, there will never be an end to my source. In every moment, when people are not, God still is. I'm going to get you to the grocery store. Just hang with me about 5 more minutes. We're going to get out. Meat's going to be there. I promise you I'm not going to mess up your day. You're going to get time to shop in a minute. Yeah? Your health may not be, but God still is. Your money may not be, but God still is. And some of you are living like there's a death to God. You don't live like he's alive. You don't live like he made the world. You don't believe on the level like God made you. Because in the storm, you act like you got to keep yourself, and God is saying, hey, I'm your source. I don't care what you're going through today. I don't care what your experience look like. There will never be an end to God. Not only will there never be an end to God, but there's nobody equal to God. I like this phrase. I like this phrase. He said, blessed be the Lord. Because I can't say this about anybody else, because other humans got to die like I got to die. But God made me to live, then lets me die to live again through salvation, and then I die to live evermore. You explain that here. Think about that when you get home here. He made me out of nothing to make me live. Then through salvation, I die to live. Then when it's my time to go, I die to live evermore. You figure that out. I have everlasting life. Listen, he's a God that he never has to go through those changes. He brought me from himself to bring me back to himself, because when I die, I'm going right back to him where I came from. That's the ministry of Jesus Christ. When he hung his royal robes in the closet of divinity, to come down here and redeem man from his sins. That's what this is all about today. His father visited the tomb that Sunday morning after the angels rolled the stone away, put all power in heaven and earth in his hands. He gets up, tabernacled a little while longer to tie up some loose ends, because the Holy Spirit was getting ready to come. He says, I'm still handling things. As I go, someone is coming. We're going to switch places. The Holy Ghost came, because he said, I promise you I wasn't going to leave you comfortless. And as he was going, the Holy Spirit was coming. And he went right back to where he came from. All I'm trying to tell you, I don't care what your experience look like. Don't you live like God is dead. Don't you ever live like somebody can defeat God. How can you defeat a God that never has to fight? I wish it wasn't the holiday season. But you answer that. How can you defeat a God that got victory even before the fight begins? And when storms come, you throw in the towel. Like the God you serve can be defeated. There's no end to God. There's no equal to God. But there are expectations from God. God says, if you trust me, if you trust me. Well, God, I've been trusting you, but you ain't fixing it. God, what are you going to do? He says, I'm doing something greater. I'm keeping you and I ain't turned it around yet. You're not looking at the real miracle. God don't have to just get you out to answer prayer. Listen, you ought to have a faith that even if you don't get me out, my focus is on how well he's keeping me in the midst of it all. Somebody ought to give him an in the midst of it all shout. Those of you in social media, you ought to thank God. Put it on the screen. He's been keeping me in the midst of it all. That's the real miracle. Not when I get out, but how well I look in the midst of it. I look good in the midst of it. In spite of it all, You ought to be able to say something good about God. Because he didn't do what you wanted him to do. He did what he wanted to do. Blessed be the Lord, the self-existent one. Listen to what he says. I'm blessing him because he's the one that loadeth us with benefits. The God of our salvation. Selah. Second thing I want to share with you, child of God, when you understand he's an indissoluble source. Second thing I want to throw at you today is that you have an inexhaustible season. You're so worried about what you don't have instead of shouting about a season that's never going to end. Your season is connected to your mindset. Hold on, I know why you're missing it, because you don't know what that DAILY means. For some of you, that means every other day, every other week, every other month, every other year. So that's why you think that you're not in your season. But God is saying, I'm so good to you until I have set your life up for a season that'll never end. That's why you have survived everything you survived. Because you're in a season that never, he says, I don't leave it to an angel to do this. I don't leave it to your folks to do this. He said, I load you up. So, to put it in perspective and to take it contextually, he says, who daily loadeth. That word loadeth is a strange word. It's not just putting something on my account, but that word loadeth means to carry a load or a heavy burden. Hold on. So that means that in every storm that looks like it ought to make me weak, the reason I don't look like my issue is because he's carrying the burden. Hold on. Because sometimes when you go through, people identify storms with, I got to get back because I don't want to get burned. But the Lord says, I'm right in the middle of it with you. And I'm carrying your load. Somebody here today, listen, out of all you've gone through this week, last week, out of all you're going through in your life, everything that's happening in your personal environments, God says the reason you don't look like it and people can't believe it, because they make your outer appearance synonymous to weakness out of how you ought to look based upon what you say you're going through. But they don't know you're in another set of hands. That every day when the enemy thinks the load is going to weigh me down and the load is going to bend me over, the Lord said, this ain't for you to carry. Give me that. And God says, I'm taking some stuff out of your hands. He says, I'm not just doing this every other day. He says, but I daily carry your load. You go on home today. You go on home today. knowing that God is going to take the weight of that struggle from you. If it wasn't for that help, these Jewish people would have long been gone under. But this long burden of exile, times of intolerable burdens, but God says, I've been relieving your burden over and over and over again. That's where somebody is today. God has been doing it. Over and over again. I'm letting you out of here. All I'm trying to teach you today is that you need to retrain your mind on how to count. Stop trying to count material things. Stop trying to count humans and start counting God. And when God is the only equation, and when God is the only answer, then nothing else matters. No matter how many subtractions come in my day, no matter how many subtractions come in my life, God keeps on shifting the load over and over and over again. Yes, you daily. Over and over again. Through every heartache, every heartbreak, God says over and over and over again. Multiple funerals in your life, over and over and over again. Multiple sicknesses, over and over and over again. Unstable employment, over and over and over again. Trouble out of your kids. When you get this one settled, then here comes this one. When you get that one settled, then here comes that one. Just when you think this has been solved, then here comes something else. God says, you're not going to look like that. Over and over and over and over again. Listen, child of God, you're in your season right now. And the good news about it is that God determines your season. Then those that have given a prediction, no, you won't last long. But you highlight this verse and know that God is the only one that writes your season. And nobody can edit your season but you. Sin will get you in trouble with God. Then God says, hold on. I got to let this load linger because there's some stuff in you that can't go forward. You got to unload some stuff out of your life, unload some stuff out of your mind, unload some stuff out of your spirit. He says that you're going to mess up your season. See, God says, when I daily loaded you with benefits, he says, there's no limit on what I'm going to do for you. That there's some uniqueness in what's unlimited. He says, so every day you get up, you got to know that there's going to be some spiritual deliveries dropped off to you. There's going to be some ways made. There's going to be some doors open. There's going to be some prayers answered. Somebody here ought to thank God for a schedule and the scheduler. Somebody here ought to thank God that God determines how your day's going to look. Tell somebody around you, God determines how my day is going to look. Even if there are burdens, there's a blessing that's closely linked to the burden. I don't see it. I don't understand. I don't know why this burden is as hard as it is. But when I try to do it in my own strength, God said, take that out of your hand. Put it in my hand. Because he says, salvation. I'm the God of your salvation. That word salvation means deliverance. It means victory. It means your welfare. And then he uses this word Selah, which literally means take a pause. What do you think about that? That's what God is saying. He's saying hold the music, suspend the music. Take a stop right there. Pause. What do you think about that? That's what God is saying here today for somebody. Take a pause. He says, I'm daily hooking you up with benefits, whatever you need. And I'm the God of your salvation. I'm the God of your deliverance. I'm the God of your victory. I'm the God of your breakthrough. Everything you need, I am God. Selah. Pause. Think about that. And then after you think about that, verse 20, he says, he that is our God is the God of our salvation. And unto God the Lord belongs the issues of death. I like that, because the last thing that needs to happen when you understand he's an indissoluble source, that you have an inexhaustible season, it's never ever going to end. God says daily, I'm going to do this for you. Daily, I'm going to keep on shifting the loads that I permit in your life. I'm going to take it from you. He says the only thing you need to know now is make an indefinite settlement. An indefinite settlement. Here it is. Stuff that belongs to God, don't you take it from him. Listen to what he says. The issues of death means an outcome, a conclusion. I ain't got no business bothering that. My mind should be on God, not the outcome. So God is saying you need to make an indefinite settlement and mind your business. God says, did I ask you to figure your way out? Listen to what the writer says. He's the God of my salvation, and unto the Lord belongs the issues of death. My conclusion belongs to him. God says, did I ask you to write anything in this script? God says, did I make a mistake? And many of you today, you haven't settled in your mind that the outcome belongs to God. The Bible teaches you are more than a conqueror. That's what the Hebrew trio, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the king threatened them that, listen, if you don't bow when you hear this music, obviously you don't know who I am. I am King Nebuchadnezzar. You don't want none of this. They say, King, hey man, live forever. We ain't gonna bow. You got a choice, bow or burn. They say, hey man, do what you got to do. We ain't got nothing else to say other than we will not bow, and the God whom we serve is able to deliver us from your hands and this fire. But if not, we still know he's able. You know what they're trying to say? The outcome belongs to God. If I go in the fire, I'm not worried how I'm going to get out, because the outcome belongs to God. All I'm trying to tell you today, if you stop trying to write your own outcome, you will come out. Your conclusion belongs to God. I don't care what your doctor says. I don't care what your folks say. I don't care what your friends say. I don't care what your enemy says. Your conclusion. God says, if I've been daily taking care of stuff for you, don't you think I can take care of your conclusion? But you wishy-washy. The day I trust him, tomorrow I don't know. The day I shout he's going to make a way, tomorrow I'm in doubt. No, God says, no. You need to make an indefinite settlement. That when storms come, when situations come, you say, hey, my conclusion belongs to God. I don't know who this is for today. But God says, don't correct my writing. God says, I wrote this script before you were born. I had a plan for your life. And everything is going according to plan. And everything that you're enduring is falling right into plan. Moses and the children of Israel find themselves at the Red Sea. They start crying. This is it for us. Did you bring us out here to die? At least we had bread and a burial where we were. Even though we were in bondage, at least it was tolerable. Hold on. How can bondage be tolerable? How can you be satisfied with a stronghold? God is trying to move you to a better life, but you said, I'm satisfied with dying. God says, I'm trying to take you to where you can live, but your mind keeps looking back, well, at least I had somewhere to be buried. God said, what's wrong with you? He says, okay, let me get y'all out of here. Moses, you're going to be the first emancipator. Liberate these people. Get them out. They get to the Red Sea. They start crying. How are we going to cross? Pharaoh and his army coming from behind. God said, did not I tell you? That everything is going to be all right? How? You don't, God, you see all this water. What are we going to do? God said, all you had to do was get an indefinite settlement in your mind. That I'm at this water I can't cross. But all I know is when Pharaoh get closer, I'm going to be on the other side. Now, God, whatever you're going to do, I don't know. Is that the conclusion is in your hand. I'm not going to stress myself out. God turns back to Moses. What are you crying to me for? What do you got in your hand? A rod? Stretch it out. But God, what is a rod going to do with water? Stretch it out. Because the conclusion is in God's hand. God never leads you to a place and makes a mistake. All right, that word salvation. Underline that word salvation in verse 20. That word salvation literally means to be liberated. It literally means to be saved in a battle. It literally means to be victorious. But hold on. That word salvation in verse 20 is plural in the Hebrew. It literally means salvations. Which literally means that no matter what you're in, he's going to liberate you, save you, make you victorious over and over and over again. So that means that no matter how mighty the storm is, it's going to fall under many. You missed it. no matter what the might of the storm is, many means more than one, more than two, more than three, more than 10, which means that no matter how many times the storms show itself strong, God says you got many deliverances that's already on your account. That's why, child of God, you've forgotten how to count. Yes, you've forgotten how to count. Oh man, you've forgotten how to count. Listen, God is saying, hey, everything that you go through, he says, I've already calculated it. I already got your conclusion. And then all you need to know is that, and unto him, God, I'm not going to take what you took from me. Unto you are the issues of death. That word issue, strange word, literally means outgoing or going out, the extremity, the escape, the source of life, the escape from death. God, how I come out, that word death literally means death by violence, ruin, the end. God, I'm not worried about how you're going to work my ending, because what the devil wants me to do is lose my expectation based upon what I think the ending is going to be. And if I think the ending means that there's an end to me, then that means I've lost my expectation in the experience. And that means I stop looking for God on the next level to do something great in my life, because I feel that God has done all he's going to do. Amen. Goodbye now. God says, I got a resounding climax for you. You're going to experience salvation on a major level. But you just got to have an indefinite settlement in your mind that my conclusion belongs to God. Don't you give up on life. Don't you give up in the struggle. I know it looks like your children are getting worse. Home is getting worse. But notice I said it looked like. You leave out of here today and choose looking at God over look like. Sound like a play on words, but it makes sense. Because it just look like I ain't gonna make it. Just look like nobody loves me. Just look like I can't get a job. Just look like I can't get no help. Look at what you're saying. The operative words are look like. It's not is, and so you base your life on look like. But if you mess around and look at God, looking at God will override your look likes. I can't hear nobody in here. You hang in there, because God is saying, I'm carrying your load. And that's why you can look at some people and say, now I ain't gonna call you no lie, but it just don't look like nobody can be going through all that. You don't even look like you going through nothing. I know, because that daily visitor says, give me that. And the good thing about him taking the load is that no matter where you are, you can be at home, you can be at work, you can be in the doctor's office, God says, give me that. And it looks better in God's hands. I'm trying to teach you today that day by day, instead of looking at your crisis and circumstances and complaining, start counting God. All right, God, you got me up this morning. All right, this your day. God, whatever you decide to do, just show up for me. That's all I ask you to do, God. If you're there, everything's going to be all right. And the devil says, well, not this house today. And the devil says, well, I'll catch him about 12 o'clock. Well, God, I'm at work. You know, this work is more than what I can do. But God, you gave me this job. So now, God, help me get through the day. Give me strength, God, to make it these last 2 or 3 hours. Give me strength, God, to just get to my lunch break. God, be my source. It's not in my coffee. No, it's not in my tea. It's not in whatever you eat at your desk to try to keep yourself together. No. Your help is in God. Ask God for strength. Somebody here today, you go on and ask God for strength. Ask him to help you get through it. Ask him to give you strength. Help me, Lord. Just give me strength. You go back home today and say, Lord, give me the strength to handle what's at my house. I tried all I could. I made a mess of it, but God, give me strength. Don't let me put matters in my own hand. That problem that I had, I just couldn't seem to solve. I tried. But I kept getting deeper involved. But when I turn it over to Jesus and I stop worrying about it, I gave it over to the Lord. And what did he do for you? He worked it out. That's all I came to report to you today. Is that whatever the problem is, God will work that thing out. Can you just look at somebody and say, man, I believe he's going to work it out. But you got to fix your focus. You got to fix your mindset. That no matter what the problem is, you've got to learn how to say it's in the Lord's hands. Don't know how you feel about it, but if you look back over your life and see how far the Lord has already brought you, somebody here can say, he's brought me too far to turn and leave me now. Lift your hands and tell him, thank you for being with me on my journey. Lift your hands and tell him, thank you for taking every heavy load. They used to say in the old church, he's a mind regulator. He's a heavy load sharer. He is a burden bearer. He walks with me. He talks with me. He tells me that I am his own. Is there anybody here can give him praise for your daily benefits? Can you give him praise for his daily duty? And I want to tell you, he's never been late. By the time I get up in the morning, he's already in my day. Matter of fact, he kept me all night long while I slumbered and slept. And you know what it is today?